Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making the Cheesecake Factory honey wheat brown bread. This is my first time, but they came out perfect and in my opinion taste even better if possible and are also a tad bit healthier. It is a labor of love and takes a bit of time, but so worth it. So let's get into it. You're going to need some warm water, some yeast, instant yeast, and some sugar. And then we're going to be using a stand mixer, but you can also do this by hand. Then some bread flour, whole wheat flour, salt, some instant coffee, cocoa powder. And then for our wet ingredients, we have some molasses, some softened butter, honey, and then cornmeal for the base, and then some rolled oats for topping. And then we'll have some oil to line our bowl later for our dough. So with yeast, you're just going to add 2 teaspoons and a quarter teaspoon to the lukewarm water, along with a tablespoon of sugar. You're just going to mix that to combine and set that aside roughly about 10 minutes before it gets bubbly. Now in our mixer, I already have 2 cups of bread flour. And then to this, you're also going to add 1 3/4 cups of whole wheat flour. Then you'll add in a tablespoon of cocoa powder, 2 teaspoons of the instant coffee, and a teaspoon of salt. Now with our paddle attachment, you're just going to whisk this to combine. Just takes a couple seconds. This is what our yeast looks like after 10 minutes, which is perfect, nice and bubbly on top is what you want. And now we're gonna add in the rest of our wet ingredients. So you'll just go ahead and pour all of the yeast mixture, then our 2 tablespoons of softened butter, 1/4 cup of honey, and 2 tablespoons of molasses. And then we're gonna mix this low to medium speed so that the flour doesn't go everywhere. It's gonna look like a wet batter mixture after about a minute or 2. And then we're gonna switch out the attachment to the dough hook to complete the kneading process. So this is gonna take about 8 to 10 minutes, depending on your dough. It should pull away from the sides like this, and you know it's ready once it starts sinking down, but it shouldn't stick to the bowl. We're gonna line a bowl now with some oil, just so that our dough doesn't stick while it is proofing, and get that batter out. And then we're gonna cover this with some saran wrap loosely because it is going to rise quite a bit for 2 hours in a warm spot. It should come out looking like this. This is very airy, doubled in size, which is beautiful. And then we're gonna turn this out. I have 2 pans ready because we're gonna need lots of space for a second proofing, cornmeal for the base of the dough, and then some water and some rolled oats for our topping. So I have the dough here out and basically going to knead it just for a minute just because it was sitting in the oil so that it's evenly coated all over. And then I'm going to divide the dough in half and work with 1/2 at a time. So with each half, I'll divide it into 4 pieces and then those 4 sections into halves again to make 8, and you should have 16 in total with both halves of the dough. I'm basically rolling them into small, round, individual loaves, and you're basically folding and kneading them in to create friction to have the dough be tight, and then sealing the base, and then we're going to dip it lightly in the cornmeal. The cornmeal is optional, but I find it gives it a nice crust on the bottom and it helps it to not stick to the pan. And they may look small right now, but they will rise and double in size. And they do dry pretty quick as you're working with them, so you want to work as quick as you can. As you can see, they've dried up pretty fast. So now we're going to brush them with some water, and this will help the rolled oats stick to the top of them. You can use your hands, but I find that too much water gets on them, so I'm using a pastry brush. You'll just sprinkle the rolled oats on top and then just pat them down to stick. And now these are ready for a second proofing. Another hour and a half, covered loosely with saran wrap. Our oven is preheated to 350 Fahrenheit, and our dough has risen, doubled in size. These are good to go and ready to bake. You can see that they've risen nicely because the cornmeal, you'll see that was underneath, has risen with the dough at the bottom. So now these are going to go into the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. And you'll know when they're done because when you press into them, the dough should almost bounce back immediately. So these are fresh out of the oven and they pretty much bounce back right away. Let them cool for 5 minutes or enjoy them right away as I did. These are great on their own, or of course with butter and some jam or Nutella. But again, the bread itself is slightly sweet and really light and airy, so they're really great on their own as is and taste exactly like the restaurant. So you can see here the texture is really light, airy, and soft. And also it bakes pretty quick. So on the second batch I tried for 5 minutes longer, not too much of a difference. Still was a great texture. Now I love sharing what I make with friends and family, and so I hope you guys give this a try. Even though it does take a while, it's so worth it. And I hope you guys like the video and stay tuned for more.